everyone. Today we're tuning in for the Adelaide Property Market. So we do our property market updates quarterly with Lachlan Turner from Turner Real Estate. I'm of course Marissa from Rise High, and we're talking all things property, Adelaide Market, quarterly update. So Lachie, how's the property market going? What's been happening over the last quarter?
Yeah, well, there has been a lot of media about the property market, and I think the truth is that it's mainly rising through houses. So a lot of people think, well, look, it's a rising market. The market's incredible, but it isn't for all types of property, Marissa. Okay. So I think that's really the key.
So mainly like houses on big blocks of land, or just any size block of land, really?
Yeah, sort of any size block of land, but it's just that house type thing where people, I think, since COVID, and there's all sorts of reasons why I think houses in particular are going strongly, but it's just a Torrens title. You've got your own space. Working from home is valued more. Having your own study, those sorts of things, not having some common areas or pressing a button in a lift and having to share it with people in COVID times. It really sort of did change people's thinking. So, in fact, just the stats on the market since the start of the year, the first quarter, Jan, February, March, was that houses went up 3.1%. Units only went up 0.8%, but I think that growth since the start of April, where we're seeing investors come into the market, will be a bit higher. And what's interesting is apartments, or the CBD, actually went down 1.2. So isn't that amazing? There's all this media
it's probably also
about
because
the market.
A lot of workers from the CBD are probably moved out of the CBD or are now doing a combination of work from home, and they're not. You know, I think the CBD is still struggling.
International students have pretty much come to a halt, and that's a big one. Big one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting trend that we're seeing, and we're sort of seeing the same thing as well. That people want to upgrade their homes. They want bigger homes. They want their own piece of land, and COVID has definitely probably stimulated that. Plus the fact that I think people that have been able to retain their employment during COVID have actually been able to save quite a bit of money, that they've actually been able to invest in upgrading their home, whether that be through renovations or buying a bigger home. And we're just seeing the market's crazy at the moment. I mean, it's the buyer demand that we're seeing is just, haven't seen this for a long time in Adelaide. And we're seeing that, you know, I think the views per listing are going up. I think they were up 6.1% over the month and 107% year on year, which just basically means that there's so many more people viewing each listing than what we saw this time last year. But one of the things that our clients are finding difficult, Lachie, is that they've got their pre-approvals. They know what they want to buy. They know where they want to buy it. They're just really struggling to secure a property. They're putting all these offers in. They're submitting their offers. They're doing all the right things. So I'm really keen to hear from your perspective as an agent and, you know, running a team of agents. Like, how hard is it at the moment? Like, what are you seeing at opens? How hard is it to choose which offers to present to the vendors and how to sort of work through all of that? And what can buyers do to, you know, basically get their offer on the table? Yeah.
Well, I think the thing for buyers is that they need to put themselves in a position where they can buy unconditionally. So I know that obviously your work here is you do approvals for people's loans and so on, and they get to a pre-approval. I think it's like really imperative for buyers to have the confidence that if they're buying a property at auction, that they're able to do that, and that they're putting themselves in a position where they feel happy doing that. Virtually everyone, and people might think, oh, if they're buying at auction, they're just buying cash, but they're not. Virtually everyone's got a bank involved, but it's just that people have an appetite or a risk aversion factor of thinking, I'll be okay with my finance, it's very solid, I know I need approval to buy this property, but I can still bid unconditionally. I think really trying to get yourself into a position to buy unconditionally is key. If you do need to make an offer and it's subject to finance, we always ask those buyers, look, can we have the name and number of your broker? We're not going to ask anything much in depth, but we just need to get a bit of an idea that you're solid and that you're going to be able to get that loan approved. But the thing is, in this market, is that houses in particular, which is where the growth is and why it's so strong, they're pretty much going to auction. That is the preferred method of sale for sellers at the moment. So advice is pretty much start with your finance, feel comfortable that you can buy a property unconditionally.
And I think I'm just going to add to that, because from the finance perspective, it's really like all the banks are drowning in work at the moment, and everything is so slow. And in particular, most banks have actually pulled out of doing pre-approvals. And the ones that are doing pre-approvals are taking like a month to just approve a pre-approval because they're getting put to the bottom of the pile and they're prioritising refinances and purchases. So that creates that real dilemma of, yes, you need a pre-approval, you need to be a strong buyer so that you can have that unconditional purchase, but it's actually really hard and takes a long time to get a pre-approval. So I guess from a finance perspective, I think Lockie's advice is definitely on the mark, where you need to get your pre-approval, but you need to be coming to see us a month before you want to buy.
Early, get it set up
because
early.
It could take, you know, a while to actually get that pre-approval, because they're just, the banks aren't necessarily, you know, they're not prioritising them, they're doing them really, really slowly. So it does take a lot of time to get that pre-approval, which then gives you that confidence to go to auction and to, you know, bid, you know, unconditionally on properties.
Another tip as well is if you own an existing property, and I know my wife and I felt the same way. It was like we wanted to buy something and then we'd sell our property, but we never had the confidence of actually how much we'd get when we go to the open market. Even though I'm an agent, you just never know how you're really going to go. But aside from that, what we find is best is if you just make the decision that you definitely want to sell and buy something else. And then if that's the case, sell your property first, realise how much you've got, look at it sitting in your bank account, get your pre-approval so that you're just 100% able to bid at auctions and able to proceed in that manner. We just find in this market, buyers do not have the upper hand, unfortunately. So you can't make offers subject to sale of a house. You can't.
No.
Well, you can, but they're not really going to be looked at favourably because there'll be 15 other buyers that'll be unconditional. So really, you know, in order to just simply have a seat at the table, you've got to do things like get your pre-approval if you do own a property and you're dead serious about moving into something different. Sell that first and then put yourself in a position of strength.
Yeah, and when you do sell your house, if you're going to do that strategy, you can always put a long settlement on the sale if you want to have time to find something else. The other strategy that you can do from a finance perspective is use bridging finance. So if you want to buy something and you know you want to sell your house, but you want to give yourself time to sell your house, then you can get a bridging loan. So you can actually have the confidence of having, you know, 6 to 12 months to sell your house, but still only pay for one loan, you know, when you're holding both of them. So there's ways around it. So basically the general theme is try and go in with your strongest offer, try and make it unconditional if you can, which means you've got to have all your ducks lined up.
Yeah. Well, look, I've been doing this 17 years, and I've been through all of the markets. You know, the GFC, which was the complete opposite of now, which is where buyers were gold, and we'd say to our sales team, guys, if you get any inquiry, latch onto it. And now, isn't it extraordinary how the tables turn? And now it's like, I've got so many buyers, it's just like crazy. So it's not easy for buyers at the moment.
No, and one of the things that I think buyers are struggling with is how high the prices are going above their advertised mark.
Well, so, look, I might just add something on that because there's so much legislation and law about that.
I know.
And then people go, agents, and we always get a bad name for ourselves because of this thing called under quoting, which was outlawed in July 2008. So we can't do that anymore. But what we're finding is that we're abiding by the law, providing all the past sales of all the properties that are the most comparable to the one that we're selling. But the fact is that when a market changes either up or down, clearly it's going up for houses at the moment, the past sales are in a different market. So so now we're rising into a new market. So the comparable past sales will only actually be comparable in 6 months to a year's time once they actually start to settle, and you can see that data. So when you look at historic sales, yes, they are lower than what we're seeing at the moment because it's rising above them. So it is very difficult, and like we're doing our best to provide accurate guides. What we're finding is that we're actually just giving people a little bit of feedback from what we're getting once we've been on the market about a week and we talk to buyers that way. So we're finding that helps a little bit.
Because I know that recently there was a property in Holden Hill that was advertised at 480 and it sold at auction for 832. I just think when there's properties like that, I mean, that's pretty extreme.
That is extreme.
But when there's properties like that that are going so far above their advertised price, and I get the dilemma because it's kind of the same on the finance side. You know, most banks will want the property to be valued when we're going through the process of applying for the loan. And the valuers are using historic data too.
Exactly right.
You know, they're using the past sales, which is what the agents are using. I guess the good thing though is that generally speaking, if the property sells at auction or if it's a genuine sale, it's very hard for a valuer to argue that's not the market value.
Well, well, exactly right, and that's what I say at my auctions for people, because a lot of people ask if they will offer prior. And so, well, like I normally say, well, look, it's we'll only do that if we get a really, really outstanding offer above sort of market feedback, and that's a bit rare. But just wait. The reason to wait, and I actually say this because I'm an auctioneer, and I say this during the auction. I say, well, look, isn't this a great way to buy? It's completely open. It is a transparent process. You know you're paying market value because there's 3 or 4 people bidding pretty much a similar amount right around you. And you know, with them a private treaty, you might put like 50 or 100,000 more than someone else, and you have no idea because it's a private offer. Yeah. So auction really should give buyers, the confidence around a value. The other thing about an auction is that you've always got a personal choice whether to bid or not to bid. So if it's a private treaty offer, you might just put your best foot forward, and then someone, unbeknown to you, puts their best foot forward and it's 5,000 more. You might have actually stretched another 6,000 and got it, but you never give yourself that chance. So with auction, you've got that choice. Just
clarify this for me. Are agents unable to come back to like once you've put in your offer, can you go back to that person and say, look, there has been a better offer than yours, can you increase your offer? Or is that something that you're not really supposed to be doing?
You are not allowed to say that. You can't say that someone's got a better offer.
Okay.
I mean, normally at Turner we would say, look, make an offer, put your hat in the ring, and some buyers operate differently also. So it's not just agents that operate differently, but I think if you are
some buyers follow the tactic of just starting low and hoping that the agent's going to come back to them and give them some guidance, whereas others will go in and put their top offer first. So it's hard. I guess it's hard to know how to relate with.
We always give buyers a second chance to offer. So we appreciate that there's some tendency or a behaviour to sort of start maybe a little bit conservatively. So we always come back and say, okay, it's definitely selling. You absolutely made your best and final. So we will do that. But what I advise buyers to do is actually ask the agent, how do you, if it's not an auction, how do you follow the process of the sale? How do you offer? Is it just one and final, or do you come back to me? Ask that question.
That's a really good tip. So before you make an offer on a property, ask the agent the question of what the process will be and whether you'll have any feedback from the agent after you've put your offer in before the house gets sold. That's so important.
Yeah, and the other thing which agents really should do is, if it's going to auction, make sure every inquiry that's made on that property that agent's selling, that agent is logging that inquiry. And just to make sure they've got your details, send them an email and say, can you please keep me informed if any offers are made prior to the auction, so I also have an opportunity to offer. I would like to offer, but I'm waiting because I'd like the openness of the process in saying that I don't want to miss out prior. So put it in writing to an agent, make sure they keep you informed. Because I'm finding a lot of buyers are coming to us. We've got some huge properties at the moment with massive interest, and people are offering simply because they're scared that they're going to miss out because someone will offer prior. And I said, look, if we're in that situation, you will get a chance to offer. We're extremely thorough with that. So but just make sure, put in writing, send the agent an email.
So many good tips there. And you did say at the beginning that obviously a house on a detached piece of land is the way to go. But do you see any sort of hot suburbs or any areas that are sort of real interest at the moment that you think it's worth sort of sharing?
Yeah, well, look, honestly, I haven't done a lot of extensive research on that, Marissa, but what we are finding is all through the southern region at the moment. So going from Moana, Maslin Beach, Selix Beach, Aldinga Beach, all through that region there, it's moving pretty well because it's pretty much an undervalued southern area, and I think the train line's going to be taken all the way through to Aldinga Beach shortly, or Aldinga Village, I should say. So there's some growth going through there. The median house price in South Australia is still one of the lowest, if it's not the lowest, in all of Australia.
You've still got great rental returns as well.
Yields are very, very good. One other tip that I wanted to share about buying is that a lot of buyers are saying, well, look, Agents are advertising at the moment that they're going to sell off market. Register as a buyer with us, and you'll be informed about the properties we get before we go on the major portals. Now, this is true. This is happening, and it is potentially a challenge for buyers. There's no question about it. Not everything is going on. So even in the paper, it used to be, oh, not everything's in the paper anymore, and now everything's online. Now, not everything is going on, say, realestate.com.au.
Yeah.
So what we do suggest, even though it's a little bit annoying and a bit of extra homework, is register with agencies like ours, generally the big ones. So turnerrealestate.com.au, you can register as a buyer, but do it with Owens Casterly, do it with Harris, do it with Tube, do it with McGain. Get on their databases as well, and that way you've got every single base covered. Yeah,
awesome. So many great tips. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to our quarterly update. We'll be back with you again in a few months, but thanks for joining us, Lockie. Great tips as always.
Thanks for having me at Rice High headquarters, Marissa.
Yeah, we might be at Turner next time. We'll see how we go. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Cheers. See ya.